call upon the stage the chair of today's session, Professor Rajat Moona sir, Director IIT Gandhinagar, Gujarat. Kindly take your seat, sir. It is now time to welcome the other speakers of the session. In this now, I would like to call upon the stage Dr. Oscar Pujol, Director, Cervantes Institute, Spain. Kindly take your seat, sir. Then we have with us Dr. Vedikal Hurdoyal, Associate Professor and Head, Department of Indian Philosophy, School of Ideological Study, Indological Study, Mahatma Gandhi Institute, Mauritius. Kindly take your seat, sir. Ma'am. As third speaker, we have Dr. Anirban Bundopadhyay, sir, Senior Scientist, National Institute of Material Sciences, Tsukuba, Japan. Kindly take your seat, sir. Then we have Professor Dr. Jagbir Singh, sir, who is the Chancellor of Central University of Punjab, Bhatinda, India. Kindly take your seat, sir. And last but not the least, Professor Jata Shankar, sir, who is the President of All India Philosophical Association, ABDP. Kindly take your seat, sir. It is now time to felicitate our esteemed guests. So to felicitate Professor Rajat Moona sir, I would like to invite Vice Chancellor ma'am, Nizda Gupta ma'am to felicitate sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Now I would like to call upon the stage Professor Neelam Panchal, ma'am, to felicitate Dr. Oscar Pujol, sir. Now I would like to call upon the stage Professor Amrut Bharwad, sir, to felicitate Dr. Vedika Hurdoyal. Now I would like to call upon the stage Professor Dilip Charan, sir, to felicitate Dr. Anirban Bandyopadhyay, sir. Now I would like to call upon the stage Dr. Amit Dubey, sir, to felicitate Professor Dr. Jagbir Singh, sir. This side, sir. Now I would like to call upon the stage Professor Kinjal Bendave to felicitate Professor Jatashankar, sir. We would now like to request the chair to take forward the proceedings of the session, sir. Thank you, sir.
It's my privilege to be here and chairing this session today on Plenary Session-5 on Dharma Dhamma conference. With us, we have 5 distinguished panelists, and let me welcome each one of them on behalf of everybody here. And also let me welcome all the participants who are here. We are going to have a very exciting session. We have Dr. Oscar Pujol, who is also the founding director of Instituto Cervantes in Delhi, and Dr. Vedika Hardayal, Associate Professor and Head Department of Indian Philosophy in School of Indological Studies, Mahatma Gandhi Institute, Mauritius. We also have Shri Anirban Bandyopadhyay, Professor Jagveer Singh, Padma Shri awardee, Professor Jata Shankar. All of us are going to actually deliberate on some topics of Dharma tradition of India. And so let me just give a brief introduction on how we actually plan to do this. We will have about close to 10 minutes per participant, per panelist, fellow panelists here, who will be actually putting up their own views. And after that, we will leave the stage open for interaction with the participants. So on behalf of everybody else, I would like to now invite Dr. Oscar Pujol, Director of Instituto Cervantes. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mr. Moderator. Such a pleasure to be here today in this really important conference on Dharma and Dhamma. And well, much has been already said. Let me say that I thought that we had 20 minutes. So our time has been half to 10 minutes.
Well, it's approximately the guideline.
Good. Anyway, we will try to fit that. Anyway, I would like to say that much has been already said about cosmology, and yesterday an interesting question was also pushed forward if cosmology was the right name for our topic, or if it is a Western name. And well, what basically the Puranas use for cosmology, there are 2 words, is Sarga and Pratisarga. That's what they use, is 2 of the Pancha Lakshanas of the Puranas, and that's the Sanskrit words that they use in the, but well, today, I will not only speak about cosmology, but I will speak more about cosmogony, which means the origin of the universe. And since time is very little, I would like to speak about a concept which I think it's very important to understand mythology, to understand the myth, because it gives a structure form to the mythology. And I will speak about the concept of the Purusha. Purusha is very important in Vedic mythology. It's a starting point. And I would like to say that the Purusha is really this starting point for the creation of something. It's, we'll say it's a basic body. The Purusha provides a basic body, a full whole that will be broken to create multiplicity. That's the original idea. We know that the first appearance of the Purusha is in Purusha Sukta, and already there in Purusha Sukta, the Purusha is used as a myth of origin. And let me tell one thing, myths in their essential form are always myths of origin, myths that tell you about the creation of something. Well, so this unit that will be broken in many parts, this for Indian tradition became a model to explain the origin of many things. Already in the Purusha Sukta, the Purushas used as the origin of the universe, but also as the origin of the social order. We remember the Brahmins are the head, etc., etc. And as literature progresses in India, the Purusha is taken, as I said, the whole origin. For instance, you have when you want to say the origin of a temple, before starting the temple, the raw unity from which you will start the temple is the Vastu Purusha, the Purusha of the plan. Again, even in poetry, there is if you want to start a poem, the origin of poetry is explained by Raja Shekhar as the Kapya Purusha. Poetry is a human body, and from the head, the meters, the styles. The same happened, with musical compositions. When you want to create a musical composition, the mythical origin of music is the Prabandha Purusha. So the Purusha, you will see, it's everywhere in all Indian mythology, after we forget a little bit. And that's a very interesting point. I will say the Purusha, we can say, is the cosmic giant. There is a cosmic giant before the creation of the world, and this cosmic giant will be broken into pieces, will be dismembered, will be cut into pieces, and these different pieces will be the creation of the world. The Rig Veda already says, his eyes became the sun. Okay. He says also, his heart becomes the mind, etc., etc. What I want to say is that the idea of a cosmic giant, sacrificing this giant creates the multiplicity of the world. This is a universal idea. It's not only in India. You find similar things in China. I think there is the Pangu. I don't know if I pronounce it well. You find a similar thing in Hurrians with, it's called Ubeluri. You find in Norse mythology the Ymir, also a giant, and by sacrificing this giant, the world is created. So this idea of a cosmic giant, by breaking his body, the multiplicity is created, is a universal idea. What makes India very special, and this happens very often when we come to mythology, is that in India, the logic of the Purusha has been explained in detail. You won't find there nobody else. So how this giant creates the world, this has been explained with an abundance and with a richness of detail that other mythologies in the world have not done. And that's a specificity. Now, to create the world out of the giant, this cosmogony, we have three things that are most important. The first thing, of course, is the whole, the basic body, the giant itself, the body, the Purusha, the body who is going to be broken into pieces. The second thing is the dismemberment, dismembering, breaking, splitting up, severance, breaking that body. Okay, that's the second. And the third one is the multiplicity created out of the dismemberment of the original body of the Purusha. Okay, and that creates the multiplicity. Now, these three things, the original whole is the Purusha in Sanskrit. Now, the second thing, the dismemberment gets, dismemberment for the Vedics is the sacrifice itself, is yajna. Dismemberment is yajna. Dismemberment, and is a part, yesterday I think it was Swami Mitrananda who said, and that he was quoting from the Gita, and the Gita says it very clear, Saha yajna praja shristva puro vacha prajapatihi anena prasavis jadvam esha vostushta kamaduke. And that's what it says. God in the beginning created praja sahayagnya, along with a sacrifice. Okay, what I want to say is that in a mythological language, the sacrifice, the first sacrifice is the cosmic sacrifice of the Purusha. And the sacrifice is the dismemberment of the victim, which takes place in actual sacrifices. Okay. And finally, the third is the multiplicity of the world. The third factor is the world, it's the universe, it's samsara. Okay. Now, so it's very important to understand that the sacrifices that the Brahmins do, that the priests do, is an imitation of the original sacrifice of the Purusha. This is what I am telling here. It's all these cosmogonies, and we cannot see them in detail. They are all from the Upanishads. Okay, I am now speaking especially from Brihadaranyaka, and I will speak also referring to Aitareya Upanishad. They are from the Upanishads. Okay, so and the Upanishads all the time say the gods did like this, so that's why the men do this now. Okay, the Upanishads have this imitation factor. The gods did like this, and then the men also do like that. Okay. Now, the Purusha sacrificed himself, and the result is the wonderful multiplicity of the world. And I say wonderful with a reason. Second, the original rapture of the... Now, understand what happens. There is a unity, a close unity, and this unity is broken. And this rapture, this fracturing, this splitting up of the original unity is an act of violence. And that's a concept that it's very important to understand. And the Upanishads are very clear. An act of creation is always an act of violence. And you can see, I mean, when a baby is born, what happens, and the pain that is there. So, and that violence is the metaphysical violence of splitting the nucleus, of breaking the nucleus into many fragments. Okay. Now, what is the price to pay for this violence, which is inflicted at the origin of the world? And the price that we pay for breaking up the unity, for creating this world, is the insidious presence of pain in the heart of this world, in the heart of existence. Existence is fraught with pain, and that our friends, our Buddhist friends, know it very well. That was essential message from the Buddha. And this pain, metaphysically, symbolically, is explained as the breaking of the original unity, and because it is an act of violence. Okay. Now, this pain is a form of lacking, a form of missing something. Is something that you are, and of course, splitting something, dividing something is a severance, is an estrangement, is a disaffection. And this pain, this lacking, you can say it's a nostalgia of the fragment, and somebody was used Ansha Anshi yesterday also as, is this nostalgia of the fragment has for the lost unity, okay? And this is the insidious presence of pain in the creation. The Upanishads don't use the word dukkha for this, which later Buddhists will use. Sometimes they use, but the oldest Upanishads, they don't use dukkha. They call this pain ashana pipasa, which, as you know, means the presence of anger and thirst. Okay, it's anger and thirst is in the creation, and that's how they express the pain. Okay. Now, as I said, the splitting up of the nucleus involves a tension, involves a violence in the nucleus, and that's why, and the Upanishad and the Brahmana says this specific, that's why the priest, the Brahmins, instaurate the Vedic sacrifice. Because the Vedic sacrifice, what they want is basically what they do in the course of their rituals is to restore, to repair the fractures in the body of the original Purusha, so that the creation may continue. I think it was Professor Barakedi who yesterday said it, and this is a very essential thing, I think, for Indian cosmogonies, that creation, creation I will say it in Shrishti, Stiti, and Sanhara, the three, these are simultaneous, take place all the time. And when you read the histories of creation in the, not only in the Upanishads, even in the Mahabharata and in the Puranas, you always see that there is a concern in them. The concern is that the creation may stop. Creation may not take place, may not be successful. There are the famous sons of Prajapati. He has thousands of sons. One Balakilias, they have many names. And Prajapati, and Prajapati is the Purusha, when he creates the world, he produces first some sons who are useless. They are not able to reproduce. And these sons, you know, they try to create the world, and they run here and there, and they get lost in the confines of the world, but they are never able to reproduce, okay? I say this because the continuity of the creation is a great concern, you know, that creation really takes place and is not interrupted as it begins, okay? So that's why the priests have to repair the fractures in the body. Now, and I don't know if I can continue, should I stop here? You tell me. Now, how, and this is also very well explained in the Upanishads, how the rapture takes place, how the unity becomes many, by which process this is happening. And the Upanishad, there are 4 steps into that. And the Upanishad tells that very clearly, how this is happening. The first thing, you know, this unity, the first thing is that he sees something. The unity, this is the first reflection of the unity. You know, there are many cosmogonies in the Upanishads, as I told you, and we could go through all of them, and structurally they are very similar, although the protagonists, they change, the names, they change, but the underlying structure is quite the same, you know. And the first thing, then, in this unity, it wakes up. You imagine, in the Brihadaranyaka says, in the beginning there was Atman. You translate it as there was being, there was something, Atman. And then he just wakes up and he sees around. And he sees that there is nothing but him. And then he says, Aham asmi, I am. Okay? Because, and that first, the verb that the Upanishads use is ikshate, and viksha also. From here comes many words, and this means seeing and reflecting also. Seeing, now, this seeing, this taking consciousness that I am, aham asmi, creates a desire. And this is the second step. The first is seeing or reflecting, and being aware of our own existence. The second one is desire. The Sanskrit says, tat aikshata, he saw. And then he desired, bahu syam, may I become many. So the second thing after the first seeing, the second thing is desire. And as you know, desire, which also plays a great role in Buddhism, is the first, is the seat of all things, okay? Now, this desire, this is the second step. The third step is heat, tapas. Desire of doing things, creates exertion, creates tapas. And from heat, and this is very important, the man begins to do tapas, to exert in himself. And from tapas, finally comes visarga. From this heat, creation comes. This creation often is symbolized as water, okay? Because from the fire of tapas, water comes. The Upanishad says it in a very colloquial way. When you do some exercise, sweating comes, water comes, right? And the Upanishad always uses very simple and very, daily arguments to convince you of the metaphysical truth, okay? So anyway, so these 4 aspects are very important. I say again, each, vision. Second, kama, desire. The desire produces tapas. And the tapas creates finally the utsarga. Should I stop here? Well, before finishing, let me let me say something that I wanted to say in the beginning, but I will close with that because I was so inspired by the Mangalacharan that we heard today by him. So I finish with one Sanskrit shlok on Dharma. Stapakaya cha dharmasya Stapakaya cha dharmasya Sarvadharma swarupine Avatara varishtaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Puzul, for such a wonderful derivation. Maybe I will now request Dr. Vedika Hardayal to say a few words, put our position, and in about 10 minutes. Yeah.
Thank you, respected Chair. Professor Nirja Guptaji, Vice Chancellor, Gujarat University, most esteemed Swami Mitranandji, dignitaries, eminent scholars on the dais and off the dais, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, students. I also acknowledge the presence of my teacher, Professor Raju, from Delhi University. Namaste. I stand here with a heart full of gratitude towards the India Foundation, the very dynamic team of Gujarat University, for giving me this opportunity to be in the midst of the most refined minds of not only Bharat and the friends of Bharat. I seize this opportunity to benefit from this global platform so that I can grow, I can evolve, and take away insights for the philosophical, spiritual, and cultural development of my country, Mauritius. I must admit that I'm neither a cosmologist nor a scientist, but what I'm going to share with you is something with which I connect to. So the topic that I will be delving upon is yoga as the cosmic bridge between the microcosm and the macrocosm in the Dhamma traditions. So to start with, I'll humbly request you all to join me for 1 minute of visualization. For this matter, may I request you to close your eyes? So imagine for a moment that you are all individually single atoms within your body. Single atoms within your body. Rapidly zoom out. Past your organs, your body, the space and time that you're occupying right now, the city, Ahmedabad, the continent, the planet Earth, the solar system, the galaxy, and beyond. You may please open your eyes. During this cosmic journey, where is the boundary between you and the universe? This is precisely the question that lies at the very heart of the Dhamma traditions. Today we stand at the intersection of millennia-old spiritual insights and cutting-edge scientific discoveries. Both point out to one single profound truth, that the cosmos out there is also in here. Yoga, the yoga mat, the yoga therefore becomes the laboratory for cosmic alignment, where every breath, every posture, every moment of stillness resonates with the rhythm of the universe. As we delve into the theme of cosmology in Dharma and Dhamma traditions, we realize that yoga is not merely a physical exercise, but a sophisticated technology for cosmic alignment. Ladies and gentlemen, the cosmological views in Dhamma traditions, particularly in Hinduism and Buddhism, offer profound and intricate perspectives on the nature of the universe. Both traditions present a view of the cosmos that is vast, cyclical, and interconnected with human existence. In Hindu cosmology, The universe is seen as a living and breathing entity that undergoes cycles of creation, preservation, and dissolution. And this is eloquently expressed in the Bhagavad Gita. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyudhanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. Parithnaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkrita dharma sanstharpanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Although this verse directly indicates the concept of incarnation, it also alludes to the concept of yugas, the cosmic ages, the cycles of creation and destruction. Buddhist cosmology, while sharing some similarities, has its unique features. The Buddha speaks of multiple world systems. In the Anguttara Nikaya, he states, I quote, "As far as these suns and moons revolve, shining and shedding their light in space, so far extends the thousandfold system. In it are 1,000 suns, 1,000 moons." Both traditions emphasize the existence of multiple planes. In Hinduism, they are often described as the 14 lokas. Yesterday, Professor Balaganapati and Dr. Ravi also mentioned about the 14 lokas in details. Another crucial aspect of both Hinduism and Buddhism and Hindu and Buddhist cosmology is the interconnectedness of all things. This interconnectedness extends to the relationship between individual actions and cosmic order. The concept of karma, central to both, posits that our actions have consequences not just in this life, but also across multiple lifetimes and even cosmic cycles. Thus, the cosmology of Dharma Dhamma traditions present a view of the universe that is vast in scale, cyclical in nature, and multi-layered in structure. The concept of microcosm and macrocosm is a philosophical view of the universe that sees a structural similarity between the part and the whole. The idea of microcosm and macrocosm has deep roots in Eastern philosophy. The Vedas extol yatha pinde tatha brahmande yatha pinde. In the Advaita Vedanta tradition, it is also reflected in the concept of Atman and Brahman. In Buddhism, the Avatamsaka Sutra presents the concept of Indra's net, a metaphor for the interconnectedness of all things. In the heaven of Indra, there is said to be a network of pearls so arranged that if you look at one, you see all the others reflected in it. Ladies and gentlemen, let us now appreciate the role of yoga in uniting the individual consciousness with cosmic consciousness. Yoga in its essence is far more than a physical practice. It is a profound system designed to unite individual consciousness with the universal consciousness. This concept is beautifully encapsulated in the word yoga, which comes from the Sanskrit verbal root yuj, meaning to join, to unite. The Bhagavad Gita extols yoginam api sarvesham madgate nantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yo mam same yuktatamo mataha. इस श्लोक का अर्थ यह है कि हर योगी में सर्वश्रेष्ठ योगी वह है जो अपनी अंतरात्मा को अंतःकरण को एकाग्र करके योग में लीन हो जाता है. This verse illustrates how yoga serves as a means to align oneself with the divine. The idea is further reinforced in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, Yoga Chit Vritti Nirodha. By stilling the fluctuations of the mind, one can experience the underlying unity of all existence. A very quick look at Patanjali's 8-limbed path of yoga, Ashtanga Yoga provides a comprehensive framework for this cosmic alignment. Each limb can be seen as a step towards harmonizing the microcosm and the macrocosm. Yama, that is ethical standards and niyama, self-discipline. It helps in aligning the individual behavior with cosmic order. Asana, that is postures, helps in harmonizing the physical body with universal energies. Pranayam, breath control, helps in connecting the individual with life force, the life force with cosmic prana. Pratyahara, sensory withdrawal, helps in shifting focus from the external world to the internal universe. Dharana, concentration, and dhyan, meditation, helps in attuning individual consciousness to universal consciousness. Finally, samadhi, that is enlightenment, refers to the complete union of the individual self with the cosmic self. Hence, yoga offers a path to experientially realize the profound unity. While ancient yogic traditions have long proposed a fundamental connection between the individual and cosmos, modern science is beginning to uncover principles that resonate with these ideas, although from a different perspective. The scientists and previous scholars have mentioned about theories such as quantum physics, holographic universe theory, etc. So on a final note, I'd like to reiterate that from the mud to the cosmos, from the breath to the universal prana, from microcosm to macrocosm, yoga offers us not just a practice, but a perspective that dissolves the illusory boundaries between the self and the universe, between the observer and the observed. In a world often fragmented by division and disconnection, this wisdom reminds us of our fundamental reality. As we leave this space today, let us carry with us this profound truth that we are not merely inhabitants of the cosmos, we are embodiments of it. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Very nice. Thank you very much. May I now request Professor Anirban Bandyopadhyay to give his presentation.
Just transfer. Yeah, please. No, I will talk from here. Okay, it will be in the back. Yeah, you can. Okay, so first of all, I would like to thank Com Carpenter for inviting me here in this conference. And I would like to thank Gujarat University volunteers especially. Every 3 hours, the common face that I see as volunteers, they disappear, and new set of faces appear every 2-3 hours. And every 24 hours later, they come back. So I see the profound examples of what should be Kala Chakra. So I would like to argue that every time I'm hearing in the last 2 days continuously that Hindu mythology, Buddhist mythology. So I have a strong objection to the word use mythology. What could be if there is a possibility that it is not a mythology but a much more advanced form of science that you did not notice? So I have 2 pictures here. One picture is black circle. What is this? If you go outside, far distant in the universe, you will find for every 400 million black holes, 1 galaxy. So we are living in a galaxy, right? So if I take 400 million black dots, I will die to see a white dot. So that is what we are. And that is a glass So I was giving lecture in the University of Arizona, and I took a glass of water. I put a few drop of oil, few salt, one half spoon of salt, and that is me. That is all of us. 77% water, few salt, few oil, and some few grams of proteins, and that is what makes you conscious. How is it? Let's make the journey. So we are talking about cosmology in this conference, right? So this is the standard model right now. So what it does, it takes elementary particles and what should be their interaction, what should be their potential. They put all of them together, and there are some beautiful forms of this. It's a bigger thing. But what does it explain? Nothing, zero. It only explains the mass that it takes into account at the elementary particle level. But it does not explain that from the smallest quark level to the largest, if to the largest scale, all the masses if I take, then how our mass becomes, how planet, how this whole galaxy, how the whole universe, entire mass distribution, it cannot explain. So to explain, if you see this circle I have drawn, the smallest part you see those are the Higgs cloud, then those are helical symmetries that are born for the elementary particles. You go up, and then you see galaxies and black holes, and then at the top part there are many black holes. So at least 6 layers of universes that we can see if you talk about Loka or something. What did I do? Because I'm a scientist, I'm not going to believe anything and everything that is written over there, that how God created or something. So what I did is, you see mass by surface area. So I'm ready to give this algorithm to all of you to verify, cross-check. I have taken mass from the quark to every single particle in the universe, even human, big, say Everest, planets, Kepler's, star system, neutron stars, black hole, and to the extreme right, the blue dot over there is our whole universe, mass of the whole universe. So we have biological systems and others, and you see it looks like Om. And then I did relativistic corrections. That means instead of radius, I took h by mv, mass and velocity, velocity of each and every object, humans velocity, planets velocity, and all this velocity. When I did the relativistic correction, I get a pattern like this. It's almost like a teardrop. And this pattern I will generate from the pattern of the primes. So I love Sankhya philosophy. I fall into love of Sankhya philosophy. The reason is that it is the boldest scientific statement I ever heard in my life. The reason was that there will be numbers, and number has become everything. I mean, is it a joke? Just number becomes everything? How is it? So, right, at this moment, there are many origin of universe. I think you talked about origin of universe, Oscar. And there are many theories of origin of the universe. And there is cyclic universe theory, and there is Purusha Prakriti duality in the Sankhya. And inspired by that, we have started proposing self-operating mathematical universe to find experimental evidences of Sankhya, building computers and others. So Sankhyadeep Das from Ministry of Electronics is here, and yesterday we visited some of the technology demonstrations, and he has kindly agreed to invest in some of the startups. And we also starting a quantum mission, and one of the group that we will also take into account. So 2 groups we have confirmed for funding and then continued support and working together with the Gujarat University. So this is self-operating mathematical universe. It is here. I'm not going to talk about details because of the short time, but if you look into the scriptures, you will find lots of evidences. For an example, you could look at the work of George Sudarshan, who is the father of quantum chromodynamics. So you'll find that Lohita Shukla Krishna, that 3 colors, they combine, they give the property of the quarks. So whole field came out of Sankhya. You see, Hiranyagarbha Samabhar Tatagre. Yeah, I'm not reading out the whole thing. Hiranyagarbha, you know, the golden womb that blasted off. And then cyclic universe theory. Rasacha, so there is cosmic sea, there is a concept about it. We will get into that later if there is a time. And Samabhar Tatagni, so cyclic universe is there. The whole universe is alive, that is Virata Purusha. Other scholars have already talked about it. And then Vartate Jagata Pranamidam is so beautiful. So Vartate, so life is a cycle that is going on and on and on. So these are the examples. There are plenty of such examples. I would just like to summarize. These are my hand notes. I couldn't get time to make them beautiful slide. I'm sorry about it. So these are my notes. I carry many notebooks, and I continuously write as I go on thinking. So the universe has a fundamental property. So already I think you said that jat pindate tat brahmande tat pindate. So a point is a universe, and if you go whole universe, that is also a point. So this paradoxical duality. So I would just like to add with Oscar's point. He said one wanted to be many, that's why the universe got created. No, there is one thing we need to add, that is duality. It's very important. In Sanskrit language, we have Dvachan. No other country in the world have Dvachan. Why? It disturbed me a lot. Dvachan is required duality, and I will not get time to get into that. Anyway, so Rita is a fundamental property of the universe to complete a cycle. And this cycle, if you try to complete, you will not be able to come back to the initial point of the circle. So you will form a helical phase. So Pancharatnam, a 22-year-old kid, gave this concept of geometric phase in Calcutta 1955, which later, for that work, somebody else got the Nobel Prize. But that gives the foundation of quantum knowledge. That's why under Ministry of Electronics, the project that we are starting to build quantum computer for India, the name is Pancharatnam. So that comes from exactly there. So there is clockwise, anti-clockwise, and superposition of clockwise. That is the Tanmatra architecture. I will not get into that. So if you have a circle, that is a clock, you have Sattva, Rajatama, SRT. So the mathematical structure, even if you form, when you have Prakriti, Sattva, Rajatama are equal. So they have equal diameters. But when they start oscillating, and continuously they start oscillating, that is when the samsara starts. But, so that is all here. But there, from Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, our first president, I think he wrote a book on philosophy. That's a beautiful book. And where first time I fall in love of this Hindu culture. He said, why do you use this Ludo, Chakka? You all have played it, right? Do you know why? Each point represents something. A fundamental philosophy. Why Chaucer? Chess we invented. Why? We had Chaucer game. Why? Because it was game of the universe, and then Sattvaraja game you can play. I don't have time to explain this game and the part of philosophy, but you can go to Radhakrishnan's book and read about it, that every dot, if you 1, 2, 3, 4, everything has a fundamental meaning. So when you play it, the statistical probability, you name Sankhya Karika. Karika, Sankhya is statistics, Karika is in action. So Sankhya Karika in action is the game that you play in your day-to-day home. Next time, when you have the probability, take a piece of paper, count it, and you will find the beautiful distribution of probability. So, then again we go, time is cyclic, universe created from the unmanifested, and there are many such scriptures where how systems are born. One thing I would like to say, that prime number used to call it Daivik, and ancient time, they were not interested in how the pattern of primes should be. So they were interested how ordered factors should be. So let me get into that. So in my journey in Hinduism started in 2013-14. I was giving lecture. Actually, my background is quantum physics. I used to measure single atom or single molecule. And I built a device in Japan, system in Japan in 2005-2006, where I can look at a single protein molecule using which your body is built, and that how it vibrates its atoms and what is the music. So I was interested in music and dance because I was from musical family. So I was measuring this, and I found triplet of triplet, beautiful mathematical pattern that is coming out of it. And I measured it dance. I was giving lecture, and I said the triplet of triplet is 9, and there are 12 peaks, so 108. So when I gave the lecture, one Jain monk came out after my lecture and told me, you don't know 108? I said, I'm from Bengal, communist environment. We hate Hindus. This religion is all this kind of nonsense is not there. So he gave me a book. The title of the book is 108. And that changed my life. Because I called my mother, I said that, do you know 108? He said, yeah, when we do Durga Puja, we give 108 lotus. And story goes that Ramachandra had only 107 lotus. So he took out his eyes. It is so important. And I was seeing that in the vibrations of the proteins. So 2020, one of my friend in US, he put on his head a machine, spectrum analyzer, and he started seeing triplet of triplet on this Sankhya-based system. So I have those hymns where 3x7 and different kind of prime symmetry should come up. Those are written in a book. These are not religious books. These may be religious books to many, but never for me. So I started, in 2015, my life got changed. I started putting all these combinations and compositions inspired by the Sankhya, and then I got into this. All 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in the horizontal axis, and how many ways you can arrange them is in the vertical axis. You rotate it, you get this temple-like architecture. So I purchased a land in Shimla, and I thought that first I see how Purusha could be. So Purusha cannot be written, cannot be done. I know religious people will be very angry after me, but I want to make that temple. So I purchased the land, I started constructing this kind of temple architecture where this different kind of symmetry of the primes, how the universe got created, should be there. So I designed 15 different kind of temples, 15 different kind of pattern-based systems, how it could be, and I started finding it in different systems and how could we build a computer. So I built computers and other kind of technologies. So I became a fan of Maharshi Kapil because he started Sankhya. But Maharshi Kapil had a student named Arushi, and he started fighting with his teacher. So I heard their argument and I started, and I found that this temple architecture possibilities and Prakriti, the Kala Chakra, the architecture should come together. So that's what this presentation is, that how could it be with mathematical simulation? How could it present? But what is the application of this kind of thing? Is this again a mythology and some twist and something? So I started working, and one of my postdoctoral fellow started working on complete model of the human brain. So there are thousands of papers, research papers on brain modeling, different kind of rhythms. And I integrated together all of them in the Kala Chakra model. So we patented the technology for Kala Chakra as geometric musical language in 2016 to build quantum cryptography and other kind of thing. So Sankhya is not mythology. So you see this, we created this vibration aspect. Each sphere is a clock, and it has a time period of coming back, and you can represent all the rhythms. And this is a video of what your cells are doing. Doesn't this look like the Kala Chakra? So more the technology is coming by, more we are seeing evidence. So whole Hindu civilization, Buddhist civilization, Jain civilization, entire continent, we have hundreds of religious practices, but we can be defined with 108. A fundamental symmetry that can be derived from the pattern of the primes. And that has created our language, that has created our dance. Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra, you find Shiva's 108 dance. In a moment I will show you how three-dimensional, you talked about, Devika talked about yoga positions. Why? You can create three-dimensional field distributions. In a moment I will show. So this is when you pronunciate Om. So for you, Om is a sound, not for me. It's a beautiful vortex of energy distribution. I have calculated that, measured that. And this is the vortex. So what do you see is basically three-dimensionally, this kind of vortex you have to generate. Then you have to do perfect pronunciation of Om. Why I'm taking Om? Because I plotted mass versus surface area, that is surface energy in astrophysics, because my background when I studied my master's, it was astrophysics. Because surface energy, when I plot, I see Om. That's it. And then I see teardrop to ellipsoid transformations, which I find in the pattern of primes. So then I go to Shiva's dance forms, all the dance forms, and do this triplet of triplet based electric field distributions that you are doing. So we generated that for all 108 positions. So these are the positions or the mudras or yogic positions, whatever you say. I will be fast. Then for Sanskrit letters, Sanskrit was not invented accidentally. It didn't evolve in India. Maharshi Kapil made an argument. If you want to understand the universe, first thing you have to do, you have to find out those sounds. Each letter should have a meaning. It should have some vibrations. When a person listens to it, feels that particular perception is generated. So we carried out three-dimensional vortex field, sound field simulations to understand how that language or elements of the universe would be. So a perfect model would demonstrate these are the problems that are not solved by science. Nobody has solved it. So if we are really on the right track, then we should be able to solve and contribute to the fundamental science. Only then people will not insult us that it is a mythology. It is much more profound form of science. Thank you.
May I now request Professor Jagveer Singh, a scholar in Sikhism and linking it to Dharma tradition.
Respected chairperson, co-panelists, and my dear learned friends. I am grateful to the organizers of the 8th International DHARMA DHAMMA Conference in Cosmology in DHARMA DHAMMA Traditions, organized by India Foundation in collaboration with Gujarat University Ahmedabad for inviting me to this conference and sharing my views relating to its main theme. I will be presenting my views on cosmology in Adi Granth, the holy text of Sikhism. The term cosmos refers to the entire observable universe. It encompasses everything that exists. Every religion and dharma employs its own conceptual framework to project its idea of the cosmos and man's place in it. This idea of cosmology constructs the worldview of that religious or dharma tradition. The Indic civilization and its dharma traditions are realization based. They do not believe in any supernatural imaginary being like the Abrahamic civilization outside the universe, but in realization of the ever-present ultimate reality, which is all-pervading. The perspective of dharma is intrinsic quality of Indic civilization, and it's all dharma tradition. The word dharma comes from Sanskrit root dhri, which means to hold, to maintain, to preserve. Dharma is that which sustains. Dharayati iti dharma. The idea of dharma compares well with the concept of rita, which has been explained to us by my previous fellow. In Sikhism, the word dharma means path of righteousness. The present paper explores the cosmology in the Adi Granth, which is one of the 4 major traditions of the Indic civilization, namely the Sanatan, Bauddha, Jain, and Sikh. The text of this Granth was compiled by Guru Arjan Dev. The fifth Guru in 1604. At later stage, Guru Gobind Singh, the 10th Guru, gave it the present final shape and redesignated it as Guru Granth Sahib. As a holy text, the Adi Granth is unique in many respects. Firstly, it is not a collection or commandments or a treatise like Quran and Bible, but anthology of poetic utterances reflecting the philosophical meditations of the inspired souls. Secondly, the verses included in this Grantha are not only those of the founders of the Sikh Panth, but also of the various other medieval saint poets. These saint poets and gurus belong to a vast expanse of 5 centuries, that is, from 12th to 17th century, and they represent the Renaissance spirit of its contemporary Bhakti movement. Although the discourse of Adi Granth employs poetic devices for the communication of its message, its core concern is philosophical rather than poetic. As Bhakt Kabir says in his Vani, "Log jane ye geet hai, ye to Brahma vichar." And Guru Nanak Dev also says in a similar vein, "Gavho geet na birhada, Nanak Brahma vicharo." It means, I do not sing just a song or a lamentation, O Nanak, but I reflect on Brahma. So Brahma is a prime symbol of our civilization, which runs right from Rig Veda to Adi Granth. The verses demonstrate the philosophical dimension of the discourse of Adi Granth as an integrated part of the Indic Dharma tradition. Sikhism takes the conceptualization of Brahma and Supreme Being of Purush, as my previous person has beautifully explained in Purusha Sukta. The essence of this philosophical insight in its seminal text, Vivek Chudamani, as Shankaracharya says, Brahm Satyam Jagan Mithya Jivo Brahmeva Napara. The Brahm is real and the universe is Mithya. The Jeev is Brahm itself and not different from it. It conceives of the ultimate nature of reality and existence as all pervading in the whole of the cosmos. Brahmand. Here the Jagat is considered as Mithya because it is transient and dependent on the underlying unchanging reality, which is Brahman. While the world appears to be real in our everyday existence, it is illusory when seen from the perspective of Brahma. The discourse of Adi Granth participates in this philosophical vision and existence. I mean to say, right from Rig Veda to Adi Granth, there is a continuity of knowledge tradition. Guru Nanak says in his Mool Mantra, Ik Onkar, it is the beginning of our scripture. Ik Onkar Sat Naam Karta Purkh Nirbhav Nirvair. This verse declares the oneness of ultimate reality, the eternal truth, and the divine creator who is beyond fear and enmity, timeless, and self-existence realized by Guru's grace. In Ekonkar signifies Brahman, which symbolizes the ultimate reality of the existence. The numeral 1, Ekonkar, placed before it emphasizes the oneness of the ultimate reality. And Karta Purukh signifies the supreme being who is the creator of the cosmos. These two terms project the idea of one supreme being who is also the creator of the cosmos. It is one of the prominent texts, Omkar Dakhini, in Guru Nanak, his Vani, he says, Omkar Brahma Utpatti. This is Guru Nanak referring to the power of Omkar. Omkar Brahma Utpatti. Omkar kiya jin chitti, Omkar sail jug bhaye, Omkar ved nirmay. In this verse, two things are mentioned. One is Brahma. Brahma is different from Brahman. Brahma creates Brahma, which in turn creates this cosmos. This is what has been said by our ancient scriptures. And Guru Nanak also says that in the similar vein that the Brahman created Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, and that Brahma created this cosmos. Here the creative function of Supreme Being ascribed to Brahma, one of the three devas of Indian mythology. Thus, Omkar created Brahma, who traditionally considered to be the creator. So, in the text of Adi Granth, Marusole, the detail of this cosmological process are expressed in a poetical form. It runs like this: Arbad Narbad Dhundu Kara. From endless eons, there was only utter darkness. There was no earth, no sky. There was only His infinite order. There was no day or night, or no moons and sun. He sat in profound samadhi. There were no sources of creation or speech, no air, no water. These verses conceptualize its state of primordial nothingness, shunya, before creation of the cosmos. But it is not absolute state of nothingness, as even then the Supreme Being was there, which is mentioned in Nasati Sukta of Rigveda. Na sadasi no sadasi tadanim nasid rajono vyoma parojat kim avariva kukasya shramannabha kim asid gahanam gabhiram na mrityur asid amritam na tarhi naratryahan asit praketa anitavatam swadhya tad ekam tasmadhanyam para kim channas. Then even non-existence was not there, nor existence. There was no air then, nor space beyond it. What covered it? Where was it? In whose keeping was there then the cosmic fluid? In depth, unfathomed. Then there was neither death nor immortality. The hymn suggests a state of cosmic potentiality and wonder about the source of creation, ultimately leaving it as an open question, hinting at a profound mystery. In Adi Granth, the relationship of creator and creation is beautifully depicted in the following verses of Guru Nanak Dev. Sache te pavana bhaya, pavane te jal hoye, jal te tirpavan sachya, kat kat aap samoye. From the Supreme Being came the wind, and from wind came water. From water, the three realms were created. In everything, the same light resides. At another place, the discourse of Adi Granth articulates infinite nature of creation. In this context, the following verses of Japaji can be quoted. Kete pavan pani baisantar, kete kaan mahesh, kete brahme घाड़त कड़िया रूप रंग के वेश. There are so many words and planets, so many regions and lands. There are so many words beneath and beyond these words, so very many. This verse underscores the limitless expanse of the cosmos, suggesting that the universe is vast and beyond human comprehension. Bhakt Namadev conceptualizes this mysterious nature of creator and creation and man's problematic existence in it. Ek anek vyapak purak. This is in Adi Granth. Bhakt Namdev's Vani included in Adi Granth, which says, Ek anek vyapak purak, jat dekho tat soi, maya chitra vichitra vimohit, birla buje koi, sab govind hai, govind bin nahi koi. सूत एक मणि सत सहंस जैसे ओत पोत पर प्रभु सोई जल तरंग और फेन बुध बुदा जलते भिन्न न होई ए प्रपंच पार ब्रह्म की लीला विचरित आन न कोई. In one and the many, he is pervading and permeating. Wherever I look, there he is. These verses represent the philosophical vision of the ultimate reality, Bhakt Namdev's, and Supreme Being, and its manifold manifestation in the cosmos. It highlights the illusory nature of the existential world and man's problematic place in it. The same sense of mystery of creation and creation is highlighted in the following verses of Guru Tegh Bahadur, the ninth Guru. He says, Sadho Rachna Ram Banai. Sadho Rachna Ram Banai, ik binsai, ik asthir manai, acharaj lakhyo na jai. O saints, Rama has fashioned this creation. Its existence is a mystery beyond comprehension, as one of its elements perishes while the other remains immortal. The important feature of Adi Granth is that it emphasizes the interconnectedness of all creation, portraying the universe as a harmonious whole sustained by his divine order. The interconnectedness is beautifully expressed in the following verses. Ek pita ekas ke hum barak, tu mera gur hai. There is one Father and we are all his children. You are Guru of all of us. This concept of emphasizes the unity of all beings, highlighting that every element of the cosmos is part of the greater divine existence. This recognition of this unity fosters a sense of universal brotherhood and compassion, encouraging all individuals to live in harmony with each other and the natural world. The concept of divine order is an important element. It is general to Sikh cosmology. It compares well with the concept of Rita, which has been beautifully explained in Rig Veda, which it signifies the all-pervading cosmic order. Everything in the universe operates according to divine order. Accepting the hukam is the key. The Guru Nanak says, "Hukme andar sabko, bahar hukm na koi." So, the concept of Brahm is a prime symbol of our civilization, which is Indic civilization. As in the Abrahamic civilization, the prime symbol is Allah, which is beyond this creation. But in our Indic civilization, in which there are 4 traditions, Sanatan, Jain, Baudh and Sikh. Sikhism is included in that, which has the prime symbol of our Brahman, or the ultimate reality or supreme being, which manifests in this cosmos. Thank you very much.
May I now request Professor Jatashankar to put his presentation.
Respected chair of this plenary session, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Gujarat University, learned scholars on the dais and off the dais, friends, we have been listening to very illuminating ideas and lectures for last 2 days, rather 2.5, including this one. And we have realized that the ultimate reality has so many shades. Each one of us tried to observe it from his or her own eyes and reaches some conclusion or the other. But the ultimate is confined to none of them. As Vedic Richa says, not only tat srishtva tameva pravishat, after creating it, he, the ultimate, entered into it. But this is not last word. Further it is said that Vyapyatishthad dashangulam. After comprehending entire creation, that ultimate atishthad dashangulam exceeded, it's a symbolic language, exceeded by dasha angula, 10 fingers, it's a measurement. So, I don't have much to say because I have been listening very good ideas for last 2 days. Therefore, I will certainly try to add something to the prior discussions from my own understanding, from my own reading, and from my teaching experience as a professor of Ahmedabad University. See, there is a very popular shloka which was perhaps quoted by our mathematician friend with some different words. Rajo juse janmani sattva-vrittaye sthitau prajanam pralayeta mahasprashe ajaya sarga sthiti nasha hetave Traimayaya Trigunatmane Namah. So, after praying that ultimate reality from which this creation originates, by which it is sustained, and ultimately in which it enters. Srishti, Sthiti, Laya, it's all from the same ultimate reality. This is what Indian tradition, and if we really classify into Dharma and Dhamma tradition, because I don't find any difference except the difference of language. Dharma is Sanskrit word and Dhamma is a Pali word. Except this linguistic difference, there is no difference between the two. And not only the two, but between so many others also. I remember here a great professor of my university, Professor R.D. Ranade. He has written a book which I read, and I also organized a seminar on his thought some 10-12 years ago. Constructive Survey of Upanishadic Philosophy. A constructive survey of Upanishadic philosophy. And in this great treatise, the professor has beautifully traced each and every school of Indian tradition arising from Upanishadic text, from this or that Upanishad. All these traditions have originated, including not only Jainism and Buddhism, but also Charvaka. So I found it very illuminating book for me, and I could not restrain myself from mentioning that book here. I have been a humble student of Vedanta, and there too of Shankar Vedanta, and in other traditions my training is not so good. Much has been said by the first speaker of this plenary session, how yajna and the desire of the Creator is the beginning point of this creation. But later on, sa aichata ekoham bahusyama, and as I told, tat srishtva tamevanu pravishat. The Creator in Indian tradition, in Dharma and Dhamma tradition, though there is no Creator in Dhamma tradition, in Indian tradition, I should say, especially in Upanishadic tradition, the Creator is not beyond his creation. He himself is, rather the creation itself is within that Creator. That is how I could understood in Upanishadic teachings. When this Upanishadic wisdom comes to different philosophical schools, we know those schools in the name of Vedanta, though the real meaning of Vedanta is Upanishad itself. But there are philosophical schools of this name In Vedanta Darshana, there are two theories. Shankar Vedanta believes that this creation, this world, this universe is a vivarta of Brahman. Vivarta means the appearance, that which appears but ultimately is not. Ultimate is not. That is vivarta. And the other thought we find is Brahma Parinamavada. Brahma Vivartavada and Brahma Parinamavada. And Parinamavada believes that this creation is the real transformation of the ultimate reality, and it is as real as the reality itself. Actually, these two traditions, these two schools rather, not traditions, these two schools of Vedanta, they try to define reality in different terms, one thing, and the later Acharya has to do something to add something to the existing wisdom. In that sense, the Brahman was Advaita in a first position, and Visishtadvaita and some other schools also in later schools. My understanding says that there is no difference between Vivarta and Parinama, that is transformation in appearance and transformation in real. There is no difference. Why? Because even Parinamavada believes that ultimately this creation at the time of Pralaya, it enters into its cause. It is an effect and it enters into cause. So it was expressed for some time, and then again it comes back to its cause. But this is not the lakshana, the characteristic of reality. Reality, as Shankar believes, is that which is kutastha, which never changes, which is unchanging and unchangeable and observer of all changes, which are appearances. I found a shloka in some book. Where it is from, I don't know, but it was quoted. Vivartavadasya hi prishthabhumi Vedantavade Parinamavadah. Parinamavad is prishthabhumi, background of Vivartavada. How? And the second line says, Upasthite tu Parinamavade swayam samayati Vivartavada. If we accept Parinamavad, that it is real transformation, and ultimately it goes back to its cause, original cause, then this is the real meaning of Vivarta. And so, Parinamavad for the author of this shlok is the Prishtbhumi or background of Vivartavada. First we understand as Parinamavad, then later on it transforms into Vivartavada. So, and there are hundreds of nyayas in Indian systems. there is one Vichi Taranga Nyaya. Vichi Taranga Nyaya, the flow of water and the small taranga rising because of rising on the water, on the ocean, on the river because of air. Whether they are two different realities or they are one. Vivartavadi believes that the reality is water only, and the taranga created by air, that is simply an appearance. And when the air is silent, there is no flow, air is not blowing, then it is beachy only, the river only, the ocean only, and no taranga. So Vichi Taranganya, this is one interpretation, and the other is that we observe that there are different taranga in the river. Therefore, taranga is has different reality, has reality different from the Vichi. These are two views. Anyway, I have been asked to summarize within 2 minutes. And actually, I believe in Shakespeare, who says, brevity is soul of wit. So, I should be brief. So, lastly, I mention the Shakta tradition, just a part of that sloka of Shakta tradition, which believes that is another kind of cosmology explained in that tradition. One of my friends today presented Bhuvaneshwari Mahastotra. One piece of that sloka is Nivesho Meshabhyam Pralayamudayam Yati Jagati. This world comes into existence and disappears and goes back to its cause simply by the Nimesha and Unmesha of goddess Bhuvaneshwari. So there are different ways to understand this creation and Srishti and Pralaya, Srishti, Sthiti and Pralaya. And ultimately we are all with the same agenda, that we have to search the ultimate truth and ultimate reality. Thank you.
Let me thank all the fellow panelists for putting up such a beautiful, viewpoints of cosmology. And I actually now would like audience to actually ask questions, and yeah, so volunteers can actually take. Yeah, just introduce yourself first and just one line introduction, and then you can actually ask the question.
Yeah. Myself, Dr. Utpal Joshi. I'm working as a professor in Department of Physics here in Gujarat University. So I'm a local person in that way. This question to Dr. Bandyopadhyay. First of all, to you, sir. You gave a very exciting and illuminating talk on cosmology and relating physics laws with that. I just have one or two queries about that. Basic philosophy in physics that we study is nature loves symmetry. That's how the things have gone. But then, of course, there is a time evolution of universe. We come across spontaneous symmetry breaking. I just wanted to inquire whether we have any our rituals or some our grantha actually talks about this spontaneous symmetry breaking, because of in that we have this Higgs boson, and then we call it as a God particle, and after that it is evaluating into bosons and fermions and evaluation with that. So would you like to comment on this, please?
Yeah, so there are many Chanda Shastras. Chandogya Upanishad is one of them. where we find talk about symmetry, spontaneous symmetry breaking. There is a difference between the two. So I would say that if you see several of the hymns I quoted, where in Sankhya Darshana, when they started talking, C3 symmetry, C7 symmetry, how they come together in the universe, they described as wheels with 7 horses, and then this kind of metaphoric symbols are there, and all the primes are there. So when I presented a temple-like architecture, so you see in the horizontal axis, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 I have put, and the vertical axis, prime-based composition. For example, 6 means 2 into 3, or it could be 3 into 2. So if you have 6 balls, you can arrange 2, 2, 2, or 3, 3. But when I connect the lines, this is actually connecting the different symmetries that actually maps the symmetry breaking. Yeah. So those kind of discussions are plenty in a metaphorical way, even in the Rig Vedas also. So I search for symmetry breaking continuously. I'm still searching. I'm not completed, but I'm ongoing. I'm doing it.
Because that is fundamental.
That is fundamental.
Yes,
that is fun. We have to map symmetry breaking, and if we can map symmetry breaking, we can advance all this Sankhya philosophy and towards advanced mathematics, and especially high dimensional mathematics, on which we are working now to validate more of the Sankhya philosophy. That is, I mean, then we can explain everything. Grand unification theory, GUT or standard model. Where it fails is it cannot say that one kind of symmetry, how the other kind of symmetry will come, and then the other kind of symmetry will come.
Yes.
Thank you. We can move on. Yeah.
So, hello, can I ask?
Yeah, we can hear you.
So myself, Sangeet Pillai, I'm an architect by profession. Like he was talking about forms and how forms evolve from the symmetry and the mathematics. Like even in my query is to Dr. Anirban himself. In the talk, Dr. Oscar mentioned this whole idea of how yajna is happening, and yesterday also we had this discourse of yajna coming in. In the domain of physics also, we believe that there is simultaneous pair production and annihilation that is continuously happening. Like there is no, the one big bang and one big crunch is one different thing, but then it is simultaneously happening. So my query is like this right now, even in continuation to the conversation that ended, like there is this, in the quantum realm, if I'm not wrong, I'm an architect, so I'm not a physicist, but with my reading, what I understand is, in the quantum realm, whatever experiments we are trying to do, the experimenter himself is a very big impediment or a criterion for objectivity. Because if you are looking for a particular phenomenon, you may as well manifest it. I mean, the new age term of manifestation is very real in the quantum realm. If the experiment is designed in a certain way, probably the results and the outputs and the numbers will probably try to move towards. The nature loves that symmetry, what you want to see. So the want may be a trigger to the breaking and the forming of symmetries. So in that sense, have you tried with other researchers who was not having this notion in their mind when they are designing the experiment, is my query. And the second part is like, okay, I'm an architect, so I'm very interested in this kind of form generation, because in India we believe that our temple architecture, like you rightly said, is philosophy crystallized into form, or for that matter, not even philosophy, the Brahma Vidya itself crystallized into a formal domain. So seeing by what itself, something will be moved inside you so that you move towards the path of the absolute. So do you think that this kind of what you call formations from standard model and whatever physical abstractions we can trigger that in us? Like have you ever felt contemplative dealing with this kind of stuff?
Yeah. So there are two parts of the question, and I will address the second one first, because second one deals with morphogenesis. So we have divided the universe with 12 dimensions, 3 dimensions of space, 3 dimensions of time, 3 dimensions of morphogenesis, and 3 dimensions of prime. So 3 dimensions of morphogenesis is related to your architecture you are talking about. I just give one example so that everybody can correlate and we can move on to other questions. So one is teardrop to ellipsoid transformation. You will find it everywhere. Sperm is a teardrop, and you will find ovum is an ellipsoid, and the life begins. You see, when galaxies form, it is same thing. In your body, a protein, we are made of protein molecules, our bodies like that, it's a single chain. But when it is in the water, it folds and create primary, secondary, tertiary structures. But that is teardrop to ellipsoid transformation. So particular one mathematical equation can represent the entire morphogenesis, which you can find everywhere from the smallest to the elementary particles to the external galaxy to the black holes and then super black holes or neutron stars. So that is second part of the question, that it is there, it is absolute, and I don't need to do that. Regarding the question answer to your first question, that are we changing the past or something like that. So there is one proposal by John Archibald Wheeler in 1989. It's called participatory universe. He suggested that if quantum is that reality, that I am seeing it, therefore I am modifying the state, because two particles are entangled. After long time, I change one, and then the other one is permanently defined. That means I'm going to the past and then changing it. So he came up with a proposal of the universe that, say, we have 8 billion people, and we are thinking about the Big Bang, and then we are changing the Big Bang. Big Bang. Does it happen? It may sound very absurd or something like you, but it is one of the 12 different representations of quantum mechanics. So what is actual reality, we don't know. But this is what you suggested is one of the proposals, which is called participatory universe. You can read about it. Thank you.
Yeah. We can.
He has said the idea of ikshate, like when you observe the universe happen. So the same observation.
Yeah, we can move on. Yeah.
Hello. Myself Kanchan Gokte from Pune. I'm from the Times of India. My question is specifically to the first, second, and the last speaker, because they had many interconnected points in their speeches. Since yesterday, we have been hearing about Dharma and Dhamma from cosmological point of views. So even in Hinduism, there is no unified view of cosmology. There are many views. So if we try to look at the Samanvaya, so at a subtler level, somewhere we seem to agree that the universe was never created, it always existed. So can we have any explanation of what Advaita Vedanta calls Purna and what Buddhism or Dhamma calls Shunya? Can we have explanation of Purna and Shunya in terms of cosmology?
It is really a very good and deep question. Due to paucity of time, I could not reach that point. That Vedantic Acharyas like Gaudapada, his Gaudapada Karika, the last chapter perhaps, is Alat Chakra Prakarana. Alat Chakra is a circle of fire, the fire burning in on a stick, and if you move it very fastly, then the observer says that there is a circle of fire. Though there is no fire, no circle, similarly, this creation is not actually created, or nor it is creation. The ultimate itself is there, and it appears to be created like Alat Chakra, or a circle of fire. And one more theory he has given, I rather substantiate a part of your question, Ajativada, where he says that birth is not possible. Birth is not possible, and he has his own arguments like Shunyavadin scholars and Acharyas in Buddhist tradition. So these are different views, and as I mentioned in my deliberation, that it depends on our strength of observation, how far we go. And each one of us expresses his or her ideas based on the power of observation and experience. So this is my response to that question. Other scholars will respond it.
Well, I think you put a very key question, and I will answer in two ways. The first is I remember a long time ago, maybe it was in the 90s, I was in Banaras, and I remember there was a seminar, and also it was a very similar seminar with Hindus and Buddhists. And one of the persons invited was the Dalai Lama. That was in Sarnath, actually, in Varanasi. And I remember somebody from the audience, like you, put the same question to the Dalai Lama. And how he answered was really amazing. Because he says, see, Hindus and Buddhists has been quarreling for more than 2,000 years, where absolute reality is a pleroma, or which a fullness, it's purna, or it's a sunya, or it's an emptiness, no? And they have never agreed on that, okay? And then he said, but that's not an important thing, okay? Because he said this, eventually it's a question of terminology. And I would like, this is my first answer to this question, that in the end, you know, whether it is purnam or sunyata, it's two ways of saying the same thing, I believe. And I think the Dalai Lama also said so. And the question is the following. The principle of the universe, whatever, I mean, usually both in Hindu and Buddhist metaphysics, and it's a way of talking, it's an entity, it's something which is advitiya. It's not duality. That's not the common Indian way, except for Sankhya. Sankhya, it's a dual school. It's a duality school, but it's not common. Usually both Upanishads and Vedanta, you know, believe in non-dualism. Now, when the origin of the world is non-dualism, see what you are saying. That is a very important thing. If something is not dual, it means, you know, that you cannot understand it through language, okay? Because language is dualist. Language will have subject and predicate, okay? So language will not be able to express that non-relational entity which is at the origin of all relations, okay? Now, with speech, you won't be able to grasp it, okay? Now, by thinking, you won't be able to grasp it, because again, thinking is also a dual movement, right? You have, again, you know, truth, false, and it's a dual way of thinking. Now, you won't be able to perceive it, okay? You won't be able to see it. You won't be able to hear it. Why? Because, again, perception is a dual thing. You see the subject that sees and the object that is seen, okay? Now, when we come to this point, you can say, okay, Oscar, what you're telling me? You're telling me some nonsense, because you're telling me about something that you cannot speak of, something you cannot think of, something you cannot perceive of. So, this basically, you say, the thing you are talking of doesn't exist. And here the Indian tradition has a very interesting answer, which I think it helps us to understand Purnam or Sunyata, Purnata or Sunyata, and says it cannot be spoken of, it cannot be thought of, it cannot be, you know, even perceived of, but it can be experienced. And that's a very anubhava. Because man is able to experience non-duality in a kind of non-dual experience. I will stop here, okay? But what I mean to say is that when the reality is sunyata or is purnata, absolute, and is non-dual, you can say by whatever name you want to say it, okay? You can say it is full, or you can say it is sunyata. And for me, that solves the dilemma. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
So my question is to Dr. Oscar. So when you have talked about the cosmic sacrifice of the Purusa actually led to the multiplicity of the world. So, and then you talked about that the Purusha is responsible for both the origin of the universe and origin of the social order. My question is that when you talk about the cosmic sacrifice, the same sacrifice that is the cause of the origin of the universe is also cause of the social order, or there is a different kind of sacrifice of the same Purusha at social level, and what would be that sacrifice?
Well, those are metaphorical ways of expressing, right? These both, in the Purusha Sukta, you have both the origin of the world and the origin of the social order in the same kind of sacrifice, okay? And this is in Purusha Sukta, but this is really metaphorical ways. What I wanted to say, and that's very important, that the Indian tradition uses the idea of Purusha, you know, to tell stories about the origin of things. That's what I wanted to say. And I am sorry because I could only give half of my exposition, okay? So the other half of the exposition was telling about the sacrifice of humans, because I was telling that the sacrifice, the cosmic sacrifice is a sacrifice from unity to diversity. But the sacrifice of humans, the sacrifice, and especially what happens in the Upanishad, and this is very important to understand, is the old Vedic sacrifice that was a material sacrifice, an external sacrifice, is interiorized, okay? It's an inner sacrifice. The gods become the senses, and this also in the Bhagavad Gita also is expressed. The word Deva means both in Sanskrit God and it means sense, because it's made from the root div, which means to shine. And senses, you know, shine for us, gives us. Anyway, what is interesting is that in the inverted form of the sacrifice, the human sacrifice, the final objective of the sacrifice of knowledge of the Upanishads, which again the Gita mentions, is the opposite. Is coming from diversity into unity. And it's there where all these gods, and I couldn't also explain how the parts of the Purusha becomes the different senses, that I didn't have time to explain that, you know? But again, I say this is very important because even in the Purusha Sukta, in one single verse, you have there the whole seat of the development of the concept of man in Indian philosophy. When the Purusha Sukta says this, from his heart, mind came. From his mouth, fire came. And this is very interesting. From his breath, the wind came. Okay? And I don't know if I am forgetting one now. From his wind. Anyway, when they say that, you have a full description of man. From the mind, from the heart came mind, and this is the psychological setup of mind, okay? From the eye, it came the sun. And here the eye personifies the Jnana Indriya, so the senses of knowledge. Again, when he says from his mouth came fire, and speech also, he's exemplifying the karmendriyas, the senses of action, the 5 senses of action. And finally, when he says from his breath came prana, he says prana, he is exemplifying the pancha prana, which is so important in the man. Anyway, I will just cut short because this is very, and let me finish this. The human sacrifice then will put all these senses, all this mind, all the buddhi, and will reunify all that, you know, into samadhi. Samadhi, it means reunification of all the faculties of the mind. So, and I cut it because I'm extending too much. What I mean to say is the Upanishadic sacrifice does the opposite of the initial sacrifice. It carries you from diversity back into unity by interiorizing the whole world as a microcosmos where the gods have become the senses. And again, and this I finish with this, is himsa, and I say violence. is essential in the creation, and I'd say this with all honesty, you know. Again, ahimsa is the opposite direction of the human sacrifice, and that's why the human sacrifice finally has to be ahimsa, because then you invert the initial violence of creation, and with ahimsa you are able to reunite everything that has been dismembered.
Thank you. What a wonderful panel discussion on cosmology it was. We started with Dr. Oscar talking about Purusha and creation of this cosmic world from the idea of cosmology to Professor Vedika talking about yoga as a method for uniting cosmic and understanding consciousness, taking from individualism to universal consciousness and cosmic resonance, from microcosmic to macrocosmic phenomena. And we moved on, we talked about physics and a principle of duality linking up to cosmology, layers of universe creation, and several theories of universe creation. We looked at Upanishads and Vedas in this in terms of theory of creation. We talked about philosophical meditation of inspired souls as given by Sikhism and the Dharma tradition from Sikhism. The thing like Ek Onkar. And then we finally concluded with Dr. Jata Shankar talking about appearances, rebirth, Parinambad, and linking up all together into this cosmology concepts of Dharma and Dhamma tradition. I think we started with Oscar talking about Aham Brahmosmi. I am the creator, I am the universe, and who is that I is Aham. From there, we talked about ideas of creation, preservation, and resolution. Preservation, in fact, when we started, there was a great sloka that was chanted upon, which is actually the preservation. Sahana bhavatu, sahano bhunaktu, sahaviryam karvavahe, tejasvana vaditamastu. And then we actually say, Ek Onkar, Sabka Malik Ek hai. In fact, Eka Surti jaise hai jiye, Surti bihuna kou na kiye, Jehi Surti teh teeni rahu. Everybody having the same surati, everybody having the same consciousness, every living being starting with the same consciousness, which basically brings this ekantvad. Everybody comes to the common end. In fact, even though it has been said that Dhamma tradition doesn't talk about start, but it does talk about Sangham Sharanam Gacchami, Dharmam Sharanam Gacchami. We all unite together, at least coming to an end, which basically is, I think, a very interesting question of Purnata and Shunyata, completeness and nothingness. And these things actually brought into the same cosmic understanding, same cosmology, from independent of which tradition we look at. So with this, I would like to thank Gujarat University, especially the Vice Chancellor, Nirja Gupta ji, for giving us a platform on talking of cosmology. And I would like to thank all my fellow panelists for such a wonderful, enlightening discussion on cosmology, and all the audience here for great participation. Thank you very much. I leave the stage now to the organizers.
Thank you so much, sir. On the behalf of India Foundation and Gujarat University, we would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to the chair and other eminent speakers for their insights and thoughtful, thought-provoking ideas. We would also like to thank the audience for their active participation and intellectual contribution. Thank you so much. Now you all are kindly invited to join us for the lunch. Next session will start at 2 p.m. sharp. So all are requested to be, here on time. Thank you so much.